step, we've been looking at November 20th as how do we mark the 20th of November, which is the day the child, Convention of the Rights of the Child was adopted. And it's called the World Children's Day. And ever since the Bachpan Manao campaign kind of went live in September, we've been looking at these milestones and say, what can we do to bring some collective ecosystem action on a range of interesting topics or ideas that different people would do, and just kind of mark it around other milestones that are happening in the world at the same time. Because all of our actions are interconnected in that way. So the theme for this year's World Children's Day is actually um, for every child, every right. And on this panel, we have Sonali Khan, who's the MD of the Sesame Workshop India. And if I may venture out to say, for every child, she is working for every right to play. That's what they do. And among many, many other things, but I'm just going to say for now, for every child, she works for the right to play. And we also have Nidhi Mishra, who is the co-founder of Bookosmia, perhaps India's largest publisher of books by children for children. And it's a very simple thing. The work they do gives voice to children. Everything they do brings that alive. So for every child, the right to be heard. And Neha, Neha Suneja at the Tech Mahindra Foundation, is a program manager who works on a range of things. But one area which she's sort of passionate about in my many conversations with her has been on inclusion and disability and learning. And to make visible every child. And literally, that's the essence of their work overall. Aparna Varma is with Billion Readers. And Billion Readers' main essence of their work is same language subtitling, so as to improve literacy amongst everyone, actually, but certainly children for sure. But the reason she's here today is to talk about a very special initiative that they have launched. And if I were to put that in context, is for every child a right to a song in their own language. Anuradha Khedia is the co-founder of Better India. And of course, many people know that Better India is a media platform that brings voice to positive stories. Today, though, she's here because of one of their initiatives called Childhood Dialogues, which celebrates children, work done for children, and certainly wants to bring alive the voices of children. So for every child, again, the right to be heard and perhaps even seen. So in light of this, I want to kickstart this conversation with one ask. And one of the questions that I had sent out to the panelists today was, come with any memory, any idea, anything that you want to share associated with children. It could be a photograph, it could be a toy, it could be a story, it could be a poem. Let's just put it on the screen and we can go in any order, whoever's ready. Yeah, it could be even a thought. Who wants to go first?
I could go, Deepika.
Go, Adu.
All right. So, okay. So this is I've brought along, not in a physical copy because actually I don't have it right now with me, but I'm going to try and present my screen to give you a little bit of context. This is actually, it's something that my child had created. My son had created when he was about maybe 5 or 6 years old as a school activity, and he, all kids are messy, right? And I mean, they're all over the place. They leave the house dirty. They dirty the hall, the kitchen, the walls, everything. And it used to really trigger me. I mean, I probably am a sort of an OCD when it comes to cleanliness, and having a child around is not easy for someone like that. And I would be like, okay, clean up the mess, right? And this was something, I mean, I really appreciate the school having taken the initiative, and probably just an activity. And they spoke about just being messy, and something about that just struck home. And even 10 years later, I still remember that. I mean, he's a teenager now. He's no longer has those small fingers and messy hands, but it's a thought that has stayed with me all of these years. So I just want to share that. um, Give me a second. I'm going to try and share that screen with you. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I was able to see that earlier, and now I cannot. Okay. Since I can't share the exact image, I found this on the web, so I'm going to just share that screen and see if you can actually see that. But this is the one that I was talking about. So the name was My Handprints, and it was a really cute little poem with their messy fingers on top of it. So it says, "You always clean the fingerprints I leave upon the wall. I seem to make a mess of things because I am so small. The years will pass so quickly. I'll soon be grown like you, and all my little fingerprints will surely fade from view. So here's a special fingerprint, a memory that is true. So you'll recall the very day I made this just for you." Okay, so it's just a lovely way for all of us to, something that just strikes home, because eventually those they are going to grow up even before you know it. Like, I miss all those years now when he used to actually make that mess. And I could, like, it's just a different era. So those early years, what I really learned from that, I mean, it just was such a eureka moment, an aha moment, where I was like, I just need to calm down and let him make a mess, right? I think all kids need to learn to and have that safe space to go out and create a mess. That's just the way they're going to learn and enjoy and grow up. So that's something that I really wanted to share because it stayed with me for a really long time.
Thanks, Anu. That's a great thought, and to start this conversation with perhaps giving the freedom to create a mess, and what could emerge from that is sort of almost magical. Um, Sonali, you want to go?
Sure, sure. So I have a memory that I'm going to share with everyone. So didn't really play with toys, and this is my personal story. I have two old children. They're 21 and 27. So I'll just share my own story. So I loved role play. And I used to play. I mean, I think this is so common with children, whether you're a teacher, whether you imitate your mother in many situations, whether talking to the neighboring auntie about recipes or whatever they would do. Or my dad was in the Air Force, so mothers gathered under many circumstances. So I used to role play all the time, and that was my afternoon pastime. And I think. Just to remind ourselves that we don't always need expensive toys, complex puzzles, television. Children can just keep themselves so busy doing whatever if they're allowed the freedom to. And I think the only time my brother caught me role playing and he had such a laugh, and I was furious. I still remember I was so upset and angry that I complained to my parents that he had no right to, my privacy, come and, invade my privacy, because I was in this real make believe world and was probably talking to the neighbor auntie, and I was doing all this auntie drama. And he couldn't stop himself laughing because I must have been really ridiculous. But can you imagine, at that age, it was so critically important to me. So children take their own world very seriously, and it's for them. And what I remember also, it is the most important thing. And the children's world is quite interesting in itself. And now, as an adult, when I think back at all of those moments, and I think somewhere also being a reflective parent, as children role play, as they imitate adults, as they learn to express themselves, not to laugh at them, because they are super serious about what they are doing. And if we laugh at them, we hurt their feelings. And we also sound very judgmental. So as adults, we really need to be mindful of that. And I think I'm, as an adult, constantly reminding myself of that, that that self-expression of children is super important. And let's not be judgmental.
Nice one. That's a really nice one. Nidhi, you want to go?
Yes, absolutely. I think it's so nicely set up for me with all that Sonali shared. So I have a picture which I think can be shared. I've mailed across. But meanwhile, as a publisher for Kids by Kids, I would just want to touch upon the power of stories and who is telling them. And that's what you'll see on the screen when the image is shared. So the word stories, I feel, is often very misunderstood. We think of them as, fictional or fantasy tales, which can be confined in the pages of a book or a 2 hour movie that we watch. But stories have immense power. They're constantly trickling into our minds, and they're all around us. So very often we use stories as an input to children, but what I care about a lot is the output of children coming out as stories, and stories as a moniker for any form of expression, self-expression, like it was spoken of. So everything we do, I think, from the cereal we buy to the schools we choose to what we like in ourselves, what we don't like, who we vote for, is an outcome that we have to someone else telling the story. I remember reading even Yuval Noah Harari says that the one distinctive superpower that we as humans have is our ability to tell stories, weave a reality or an imagination for the rest of us. So then, if stories control the narrative and they are so important, the second question is who gets to tell them? And why is it that our young people, from as early as 5 years old to 17 years old, 25% of our population, which never gets to have a say in the narrative? We do buy them storybooks. We do tell them stories which were handed down to us, but very rarely do we pause to ask them, what do you feel? You know, and like I said, story is just a broad term. It could be art, it could be their blogs, it could be poems and stories and almost everything under the sun. So what I think really matters is that when you're talking to a young person, asking them, we need to break the conventional ideas of great credibility when I write a book, or I have perfect grasp on language and syntax. But there is so much more meat and so much more material in what a young person has to say. So this question I'm asked very often, and we had prepared this slide just to kind of a very feel good thing, which is a screensaver for the team, about can little kids really express themselves. So yes, we have older ones. We publish children every single day from age 5 onwards, and our older kids are leading podcasts on mental health and neurodiversity and inclusion and giving TED talks. But I just wanted to kind of touch upon a few of these amazing things that little ones have shared. From a 6 year old saying, I want to become an astronaut when the Chandrayaan campaign was on, from Bangalore. Then I won't go through each of them, but you would see a little girl in Bhilwara in Rajasthan wondering why are the sparrows not as visible. So she's like, please bring the sparrows back home. We did this a bird campaign with one of our partners. Then you see there's this cute little tangram story. A girl in Neyveli, a district in Tamil Nadu, has cut out cardboard images to make tangrams because she couldn't afford the games that many of our kids play with, and weaved a wonderful story about it. Then you see a lot about animals. We have such a, so many children talking about their love for tigers. We just had Save the Tiger campaign running. And then, like I said, every child. So this was a later realization for us. We went on seeing every kid needs to be heard, but we realized that we had left out a very large section, which is the neurodiverse community, and what led us to launch Not That Different. It's a child-led movement again, for inclusion. And we have all of these amazing kids, just climbing up the walls of the kitchen. Movement is something for them, storytelling, art, And then some of our real favorites out there, a cute poem, Why the Vegetables Are Ugly and the Chocolates Are Not. You know, you'd see these on the right side. A 9-year-old who kind of recently realized that it was all one continent earlier, the world was. And then she reflects upon what would that have been if we were still on one continent. Or someone talking about how they're processing the loss of their grandmother, or massive creativity in if I were a mop, if I were a treadmill, these amazingly creative ideas, which I think as adults we just do not let ourselves indulge in. Or we have, there are these two boys that you see on the screen as part of a TED Talks, one talking about how sports is not fun, so sports is not play, and they go on to talk about how they feel at school that you're quickly like, oh, you're fast, you'll take part in this, you're slow, you stand in the other queue. So early, so many interventions that we plan in school, but what is the feedback from your young ones? Or someone else trying to convince us why Minecraft should be an absolute must play game for every parent to allow. So I think in this one slide, it's beautiful for me to see how different and how diverse, but how amazingly underutilized are these ideas that we never as adults get into. So I'm very glad that we get to stay connected with the little ones here through all of this, and I hope that got you a peek into the kind of things we do and why this was so special.
Thanks, Nidhi. I think that really was it felt like we were looking at a Pinterest board, a series of Pinterest boards like that. It just felt so much like that watching that. And I think later when we come back to talking to Sonali, this one insight from the child as to how sports is not play has a huge connection to the Kill Me campaign that Sonali will talk of later, in terms of how to bring importance to the idea of play at its very, very core. So we have. I'm also going to go last on this one because I did think of what I was going to bring. But either Aparna, you want to go?
Yeah, so I can present my image. The team can help with this. But what I'm showing is a image from Katrasin, Jehanabad, Bihar, where two of our associates, Indu and Santoli, the women from your right, the first two women, ran a small project rather called Masti Manch with kids, where we were just trying to test how effective same language subtitling is for early language acquisition. All these kids have aspirations to learn English, and every day for about 3 months. These girls ran a small tutoring center sort of a thing with them, where one part was watching videos with same language subtitles, and the other part was just a recap of everything that you learned from the video. So they will share the meaning of the story that they understood, then they will recite the spelling of the words that they read, and they'll also prepare a memory game with the words that were used in the video that they were watching with same language subtitling. Over time, we realized that the usage of words, because of watching these clips and how to use them right and confidently, improved with these kids. They all go to school, but with this additional effective but playful activity of watching cartoon or animation or a fun story for children with same language subtitles, improved their literacy and reading slash speaking abilities. And this is one image that we made with them during one of our field trips. And this happens to be my favorite image because I've never personally met the kids, but I know from Indu and Santoli that they're super responsive, super energetic, and every time I hear the speak to them on the phone, I hear them in the background, and it's amazing. So yeah, that's my sharing.
Thank you, Aparna. Neha.
Yeah. It's so lovely to hear everyone, talking about children and the memories and the thoughts. What I'm going to share today is something that has stayed with me for the last decade or so. So I am a Teach for India fellow, and then between my first year and second year of the fellowship, I had gone to a library in Goa to volunteer. And that's where I stumbled upon this book. I'm sure a lot of you would have read it or would have come across it. There's a story about Mukund and Riaz, and it is set up in the backdrop of partition. And it's a story in Karachi, and just the bond between the two friends. And of course, at the end of the story, Nina Sabnani has beautifully illustrated. In fact, I think one of the characters is a father, and how Mukund has to leave after partition the place, and they kind of exchange their caps, and just the kind of friendship that she's demonstrated. And I think this has stayed with me because I just feel every time that I interact with children, how do we get this kind of love for all, the peace that is shown in the story, and cross borders love, friendship. Um, how do we get children, who are entitled to all of this? How do we instigate this in all our children, given what is happening across the world today? This has just stayed with me. Whatever I do, wherever I go, irrespective of the organization, I keep coming back to this story. And nothing better than celebrating childhood and Bachpan Manao campaign for me than to recollect this, which has been so close to my heart. So this is what I want.
Thank you, Neha. That is just incredibly powerful. And because one of the lines in the campaign for at least the World Children's Day this year is for every child, peace. And it's just incredibly powerful. I'm going to share mine, which is more like it's a book I brought only because it shifted my head in terms of every assumption that I had made in terms of what children like to read. And also, perhaps because this is one of the books I must have read aloud at least 200 times in my life so far. And you won't like it's called Lila the Baby Elephant. If you look at the book, it's actually the story of Lila the Baby Elephant, which is only told in one line with pictures and words. And it's just one of those incredibly realistic wildlife type stories. Here is Lila, and this is her mother, and this is what she's doing, and this is what it's up. It's just photographs, right? And what the reason I'm sharing this is the number of times I have been made to read aloud this story. Each time the interaction and the conversation that I had for the children for whom I was reading this aloud has stayed in my head. And I'm surprised at how a photograph can become a conversation piece over multiple days, over and over, again and again, because there is so much that they find in it that you do not see at first glance. And Lila the Baby Elephant is not just, it's just a regular story of an elephant going around in the herd with all other mother elephants. There's no story to it. There is no drama to it. There is nothing to it at first glance. But there is so much in terms of unpacking conversations and seeing things and seeing the world and relationships that it has enabled over the many, many hundreds of times that I was forced to read this book. So that is why I decided to share this particular one. Most seemingly simple book with no mirch masala and nothing in it. So yes, and thank you so much for sharing all of this because I think this kind of segues really into the next question that I want to ask you all. As part of the Bachpan Manao campaign, we've been in several conversations, not just with the five of you, but like many, many others. I kind of realize it's very hard to do a Zoom call or even a webinar live with 20 people at the same time. So we're starting with 5 women today. But there are many initiatives which have gone live. And many of them are actually seeking conversation and participation with others in the ecosystem, right? Connections that you will see. So if I may request us to go in turn, and maybe we start with Sonali. to talk about, in your case, Khel Khel Me particularly, and what you are sort of launching with the ecosystem in light of the larger work that you're doing at Sesame. Because the ask really is describe it, make an offer, and put out an ask.
Okay. So this is a great platform, and I think all of us are happy to sort of take that up, Deepika. Solid offer. So let me just begin with a little bit of a background to the importance of play. So, as I said, on the face of it, we all recognize that children play. On the face of it, we've all through our childhoods played with the toys or sports and games. But as some of us sort of alluded to, play itself has become non-available to children. Yeah, if you think about it in all its dimensions, I think they say that we're living in a poly crisis. We're just coming out of COVID. We have experiencing climate change, environment degradation, and as we speak, peace has become a difficult and rare commodity as well. So, in this kind of crisis situation, where are our children? Sometimes they remain faceless. Uh, their photographs epitomize the pain of many of these crises. So, where are the kids in all of this? What are the resources we are reaching to them? How are we looking at this? And at the same time, on the other hand, we deeply recognize that children are our future. So, one side, the world is not adequately, can I say, handling what children need to grow up and be full rounded adults, happy. So, and they're not even the kind of world they're inheriting is also very dynamic and it's full of issues and problems. So, therefore, do we have anything for children at this point of time that encapsulates for them many of the things that you've just spoken about: relationships, bonding, self expression, being able to just be children? I think that moment for us is play. And that is why Khel Khel Mein. Sometimes as adults, we use this very frequently. And I think when Deepika, we were discussing them at Sesame, when as adults, we say Khel Khel Mein means something which is very easily done because it's child's play. But today, that probably is the most difficult thing. So at Sesame, for us, through many initiatives, not just in India, globally, play to learn, play every day, there are several initiatives that front and center why play is so important in every which way. And there are numerous ways in which it can be integrated. It's not just, oh, go outside and play in the park or climb a tree or build a house or play ludo or whatever is our favorite play. It's about integrating play in every which way. The lessons in the classroom, STEM learning, reading, everything, can we do it through play? Because that's what is really required at the moment. But also, it doesn't just answer the need of a child who may be in a difficult situation, may be on the move with his or her parents, may have a sense of lack of belonging. Neha, you spoke so eloquently about that, being displaced. But play in itself is sort of bringing that relationship between an adult and a child and child. So play can be the center of how we do things. And that is why Khel Khel Mein has emerged. So today, as Sesame, and I love what you're saying here, that make an offer and have an ask. So as an offer, I think as Sesame, we are happy to share our resources, and there are plenty of learning resources at Sesame on what play-based learning, play-based ecosystems mean. It's not just go out and play cricket, right? And someone said, oh, and for me, I don't actually watch cricket. I don't play cricket. I know very little about cricket. So I'm one of those people who feel very pressurized when everybody in a room is like saying, okay, chakka mara, chakka mara. So I'm like, okay, I get it. So happy to share resources, really open up how play can be integrated as a methodology to encourage all the things we are talking about, right? The other thing we can offer is running joint campaigns with each one of you as to how play can become significant part of how children express themselves. Already I just remembered, Aparna, we've done some work with Bridge on SLS, and we have tested SLS with Sesame content. Neha, happy to look at belonging. It's one of our biggest initiatives globally. Anuradha, this is something that we are very happy to do, is run joint campaigns with all of you to front and center and unpackage what play can mean and do in an ecosystem that is really tough at the moment. And it can be that much needed, thing in a child's daily life. That's what we want to sort of offer. At the same time, what can I ask you all? Yeah, I can ask you all a couple of things. That as Sesame, we've been around for 50 years. We've been around in several contexts in the world, and we are a storehouse of stories, of children's narratives. We are one of the biggest storytellers that you have. So what I'm asking here is that as we continue, and I'll just share why we are called the workshop, because we believe that we are in constant workshop mode. We haven't got all the answers. Children ecosystems are evolving, so we have to keep learning. And as we learn, I'd love to sort of ask you all that each of you become our learning partner. So if we are pressure testing an app, we are building UX for something, we are, can we work with you all in all your ecosystems to test, to develop, like as I offered, Aparna, to you, that we are working on sort of building up stories and rhymes from the communities that we work in. Happy to sort of have you as a partner to make them available to a larger audience, to also make them, how do we do that? It's not, how do we take them to everyone? So happy to look at that. Nidhi, in your universe, how can we pressure test or sort of pilot test some of our books, toys with your amazing set of authors that you have at Bookosmia? So really looking forward to sort of asking you all that, can you all help Sesame evolve content, develop, the material that we do, and then of course reach children. So yeah, Deepika, that's from my side.
Thank you so much, Sonali. And actually, that's a great, the Khel Khel Me idea which has emerged, and this is a campaign that Sonali and the Sesame team is going to be running over the next few months, doing a range of different activities and collaborations. And that's really sort of the announcement that I was kind of sort of requesting Sonali to make today, because it just puts forth that this is a space and that conversation is something that can be had with them, and she's done that so eloquently. But because she's mentioned you, Aparna, I have one question for you. Why lullabies?
Hmm, interesting and also super easy because uh, let's try to break down what a lullaby will look like. It has two lines that will repeat and then words that rhyme. So anyone who's listening will catch on to that hook and repeat the words with you and also feel as though there is a sense of comfort and warmth and relaxation attached to it. For example, la 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 rori doodh ki katori. Now, what the rhyming, the alliterations, and the imagery of doodh ki katori, all that coming together makes it so interesting for anybody to catch on to the language. What we are trying to do then is, especially in India, where literally language and the tone of the way you speak and your dialect, everything changes every few kilometers. Imagine so many songs are around you, and these are songs that you are hearing before you even latch on to YouTube or I don't know, cartoon titles, jingles, ads, whatever. And you never forget these songs. So if you could only when you're listening to them or when you're revising them, if you could only just have words that you can associate to the song that you're singing, your early language acquisition is going to improve, and you also get a head start. So you already are proficient with your home language, and then you also get to have a head start on learning languages that you'll get to learn in school. And hence lullabies, because what we are trying to do is make sure that India is a country of a billion proficient readers, and lullabies can be the first step.
So the
Ask something, Deepika, just for just being a disruptor. Do you remember this group? I was just when I was listening to Aparna, trying to remember maybe a lullaby that my mom sang to me. Do you all remember any?
I remember
Okay.
There's
the one that my grandmother used to sing. It was something along the lines of, and it was in Hindi, I think. Raj Kuwar ji aayenge, महलों में ले जाएंगे, बिटिया
right.
रानी. Right? I remember that.
That's also in
But
a movie.
it's yeah, it's in a
Yeah.
movie, and my grandmother used to sing it to me, so I remember it.
There's actually a very beautiful collection of lullabies from across India by Bombay Jayashree called Vatsalya. It has Tamil, it has Bengali. It's like this whole range of must listen to beautiful lullabies, and also that you gain access to more language with all of them featured in.
Aparna and Bridge and Nirav at Billion Readers launched a few days ago what they call the First Song Project. The First Song Project is an invitation to everyone in the ecosystem in the country to submit their first songs and lullabies across a range of different languages. Already, they've received a couple in Chhattisgarhi and in sort of a dialect of Bengali as well. So, in some ways, it's very encouraging to see languages and songs that you don't normally hear. But to have them, what the project is really going to do is to take it from the ground and put it back in a very short bite video format or picture format and put same language subtitlings and then put it back into the universe. So then it just becomes an asset that is reusable in some way. So you're unlocking value which was hidden in the voice of a grandmother or a community worker or a parent, and making it as an asset available as a public good to the world. That is the essence of the First Song Project. And really, this is an invitation for everyone who's listening, watching, or will listen to this after this conversation is over, essentially to say, contribute your lullaby. Talk to someone in your family. I'm sure there'll be one in Marwadi, there'll be one in Kachi, there'll be one in, Punjabi or a dialect of it, which will all be really, really interesting and lovely to bring together. And thank you, Aparna, for kind of, anchoring this
Yeah,
and making
sure.
also the video. It was actually really, really nice. You all should look it up.
Yeah, I've shared it. Also, we have something in Magai that we recently got, and it's on video, it's on our socials. But while I was working on that clip, I happened to learn the song itself, and I have no idea what Magai is or how it looks like. I never spoken Magai, never even heard it. But with this song, because I was working on it, I already can recite it in my head. I won't do it out loud, but I can recite it in my head. So, it works. And if anybody contributes with their language and their lullabies, it just catches on, and it's just a lovely archive that can come through.
Thanks, Aparna.
I,
Nidhi?
I just yeah, I just want to say, Aparna, that I'd love to have our kids from across these 150 plus locations in India that we publish from. I know it's very exciting. One of our most popular books is called Achi Tata's Kitchen, which is a 9-year-old talking about the recipes and the stories that he heard when he sat in the kitchen as his Achi and Tata grandparents told him about various things. And we have this one bit running always on grandparents, my favorite folk tales, etc. I think this could be another thing that fits right in. So very excited for what you're doing, and yes, very happy to contribute.
Yay! Would love to hear more.
Well, I think my job here is done. I can pretty much say bye, but no, we won't do that without listening to the rest of you. So, Nidhi, your turn.
Yes. I think your job is such a critical one, Deepika. I think bringing people like us together is really really beautiful. I remember I spoke. I was invited to speak about this child-led movement once at Stanford, especially in the context of neurodiversity, because people were surprised that we are expecting children to lead a movement around it, and another forum in Vanderbilt. And I remember the response I got was people are absolutely very pleased that it's happening, and they said we're amazed that this is happening in that part of the world. It kind of was ironic for two reasons. One, that in many ways we still feel that India would perhaps not be leading from the front when it comes to these ideas. And the second was that while a lot of what I'm sure all of us do is very well talked about at many circles, but it somehow loses the opportunity to collaborate within ourselves. So a lot of what we do, I'm sure is the same for everybody. Gets a lot of recognition outside, but if only we could, work together. Like for me, everybody who's spoken so far, I can see that, oh, this is something that we've done. Oh, this is something my customers would love to do. So I'm really glad that you pulled this forum together, and I'm going to totally stay tuned in for any more such. But yeah, okay, let me come back to Bookosmia, which means the smell of books, by the way. And as you've got a drift, we publish children not just as writers, but as artists, as bloggers, as TED speakers, and podcasters. And the reason why most of these themes excite me is that the child's universe has everything. So we spoke of sports, for example, and play, and we had done this campaign for the International Physical Literacy Association, IPLA, that talk about the mental health aspects of physical well-being. So playing for the sake of playing and not because you're competing, and which is where we collected all these thoughts from our kids across India as to why they play, what they play, and what makes them choose. So a lot of brilliant inputs there about how it is on the ground, why the only formal idea of play in a school is a sports or PE period. And as you grow older, you see it becomes from 3 periods a week to 2 periods. When you are grade 5, it becomes one. So to a child, there's a very clear indication that, yeah, this was all okay till you were young. Now you have to focus on the real deal. So our kids spoke about that. They spoke about how in a moment the PE teacher has to decide who should do what. Make everyone run. Get that 10 seconds. If you didn't run fast enough, you now stand there and you clap for your other classmates. So, there were beautiful inputs that children shared with us on each of these. Why someone said that I'd rather play, I'm not good at teamwork. So I play a game like badminton. I don't want to go with football. So many things, that determine how or where we approach sports. And so, yeah, I think a child's world has all of these. There's sports when you're sitting in your PE class. There is the pressure of academics, of fitting in. 1 in 7 children have mental health issues. 50% of mental health issues take root before age 14. So mental health is a big thing for us. We've in fact come out with a journal which has a very I won't say it's exactly play, but a very light touch to expressing yourself every day. So just sit at home. No one needs to read it. It's just you and them. We publish content by kids because we feel that there's a lot of peer-to-peer relatability, which I cannot, even if I'm like the most amazing writer, I can't say how you felt when you were bullied or when that first pimple appeared. So we have our kids talking about everything under the sun. And we do a lot of work on inclusion. But I think the premise is that we feel that young people are much better at solving a lot of problems, whether it's climate change anxiety, how to travel green. You'd be amazed at the kind of blogs children have written, and we do work with a lot of partners in these campaigns. So whether it is the mindfulness of birding, just going out there watching birds has a great impact on mental health. We do a lot of work like that. So very open to any field of any theme that you're running with. If it's kids, then I think our kids would be more than happy to participate in it. And secondly, in terms of what we'd really like to see, I think one initiative that Deepika has also helped us out to a certain extent is seeing our young voices out on physical spaces. So while the platform is absolutely digital right now, yes, we do publish physical books. I think we come out with 2 or 3 every month now. But physical books is a whole other thing. There is a certain cost attached to it. The digital platform is absolutely free. But we're trying really hard to get all of this in the physical space. So if you're at an airport, you have a wall where you can, splash with the colors that a child has put in, from all over India. It could be hyper local. If you walk into the Bhopal airport or station, for example, we can get you inputs from only kids in that area. This is what you should look into my city if you're, visiting here. This is what I like. This is how it looks to me. Various things. So it could be hyper local. It could be very global. We'd love to be present in physical spaces. As we speak, I know tomorrow there's an event, a CSR event with a corporate where our children's art and young adults as well. Also neurodiverse. This is more on inclusion. So neurodiverse kids with autism, learning disabilities who've never spoken, their products as a book, the artwork is being auctioned as part of the company's CSR activity. In fact, one of the artworks is being presented to Kailash Satyarthi, the Nobel laureate, from our side. Brilliant work by a 20-year-old who has learning disabilities, but has the most amazing artwork. So we'd love to see any opportunity to be physically out there in your spaces, anywhere you can get us in. It's just about printing stuff that we already have, put it out there. Let's all move towards the idea of seeing more young voices, especially since we work in that space. And second offer from us is very happy to publish a curated coming together of things. What you are doing for kids, very happy to promote it in our network. Do have now fairly decent reach. We publish thousands of kids. We have 4,000 plus IP assets. So a lot that can go back and forth, but very happy to even curate it in a nice coffee table book. If it's these lullabies, we could have them as audio and video, which goes out to our children and our network. So um, I think so many opportunities that I can think of, and perhaps take it up to the call. But wonderful listening into everybody here.
Thank you so much, Nidhi. But I want to kind of comment on that physical space thing. So, one of the things that, as a template that's being tried out, is in the context of the Bachpan Manao campaign to get children to express, perhaps to even remember what it felt like when they were a little bit younger. When they were 4 and 5 and 6 and 8, get the 10-year-olds to talk about their younger selves in some way, and they're using prompts to get a bunch of these out. And the first place this will be physically put as sort of an installation that one can engage with is the Bangalore Lit Fest. And I know that Nidhi's hope is really that they will be able to do it in other lit fests across the country. So that that's the point. Lit Fest is just one example of a physical space, and we talked of airports and metro stations and all of that, where voices and insights of children could be more visible in the public domain. So in some ways, adults around the child can connect to the idea of play, opening up your minds to ideas that you might otherwise have forgotten or shut. So yes,
I,
so
I think, Deepika, I just want to add, I think being at the Lit Fest is actually has been the most challenging spaces for us. And ironic because children's Lit Fest in India do not accept books by children. So I've gotten into that conversation with a few of them. But the Bangalore Lit Fest is amazing, and that they're doing it. We've got a similar experience now for ourselves at the Kala Ghora Art Festival in January in Mumbai, and really hoping, like you said, this should be the pilot of sorts. Bangalore's metro stations, for example, are beautifully done up by design from the Srishti students. So there's nothing that can hold us back if we just have that will and somehow get to it, have them everywhere at all kinds of public places.
So yeah, I think opening up, the real intent of this idea is not so much, is really very simply to say, how do you make these voices visible in spaces that you engage and where adults just keep wandering around? Something to trigger a thought, something to trigger in me, something ads trigger thoughts. Why not children's voices and insights from children? So that's sort of the root at which it's coming from, and because it links to the essence of the Bachpan Manao campaign, which is to really say celebrate childhood and keep growing, and that message is really more for an adult than a child itself. So then in some ways to bring back the learning and essence of the pillars of early childhood and what we can create. So we're trying a bunch of these ideas. Let's see what happens. I know that Neha, and then lastly Anu.
Sure. I mean, constantly I'm thinking of ideas with each one of you, all four of you, to collaborate post this call. So thank you, Deepika, for getting us together. What we do at Tech Mahindra Foundation is we are the CSR wing of Tech Mahindra Limited, and annually we work with close to 10,000 children. We work with government schools across urban locations, but a large part of our work is with children with disabilities. We work with children with speech and hearing impairment, children with visual impairment, and children with intellectual disabilities. In fact, Nidhi, interestingly, we are also exploring the whole term about neurodiversity, and how that fits into our context. Um, my ask, my offer, I think your everybody's offers has become my ask, because I'll be more than happy to take all the different initiatives that you guys have just discussed to some of our schools, especially for children with disabilities. And I just want to talk a little bit more about what I see happening in that sector, and how we as a foundation are trying to really push envelope as far as this entire sector goes. There's a lot of initiatives that we do with regards to sports, with regards to reading, with regards to creating resources which are accessible by some of these children, using a lot of technology innovations that are in the market and getting those to some of these schools. And we have very recently collaborated with Step for the whole Bachpan Manao Badhte Jao campaign. And so I was telling Deepika, how the Bachpan Manao campaign, of course, addresses the early years. I told her, you know what, we have children with disabilities. We're going to include all of them into this. We also have children beyond 8, 10 years of age. We work with children with 18 years until 18 years of age, right? 0 to 18. So the whole week, and in fact, since last week, we have been just kind of having initiatives right from storytelling to painting to make sure that children are just happy. Um, the other part to our work is, of course, a lot of emphasis on child safety. We have a child protection committee at the foundation, which we take very, very seriously. We make sure our NGO partners are trained on all the child safety aspects. We make sure that our schools are safe in all aspects, right from physical to emotional safety, cybersecurity, online safety, everything. So that is another bit that we are constantly looking at. My ask, of course, is that a lot of solutions that I generally come across as educator. There's of course quite some modification required when it comes to children with disabilities. And let's be honest, the resources are limited. There are very few organizations or very few opportunities that I find personally as educator which I can take to a child with, say, visual impairment, right? So happy to collaborate, or happy for some ideas and suggestions on how we can make our solutions accessible for any child with learning disabilities, with visual impairment, speech and hearing impairment, and things like that. So that would be my ask, that there is this whole plethora of opportunities, where there's not a lot of focus on of working with children with disabilities. And we as a foundation are very, very proud that we are going all out. It's very tough. It's very resource intensive, but we are like standing right there, waiting for more organizations to join hands with us. So that would be my ask to everyone. Over to you, Deepika.
Thanks, Neha, for bringing that up. And I think one of over the last actually 6 to 8 weeks that we've been in several conversations with the Tech Mahindra Foundation, the focus on learning and the need for bringing attention for inclusion from the very early stages has been a huge part of our attention. So how do we enable and unlock or at least identify what the roadblocks are for these spaces so that we are a making resources available in a way that works for all children, And another thing is, while of course the Bachpan Manao campaign is about the 3 to 8 year old child, our messages is for all children, but particularly when it comes to learning and reading and imbibing the principles of play and other things for learning, they become important for every child, even outside this age group in some ways. So this, our conversations have been very broad thing. The moment they heard of the campaign, they jumped on it and said, "No, this is going to work for all our children. This has to be for all our children."
I know, right?
They just
And
ran
it's
with it.
working beautifully.
They
It's
just ran
it's
with it really.
we are having a fun time. Yeah.
Um, Anu, I think your work at Better India has been about telling positive stories, stories of change makers, stories of ideas that people can take and travel. And I remember the first conversation I had with you and said, we are solution oriented. I want to talk about solutions, solutions that others can take and run with. But my question to you is, why childhood dialogues? Why is that such an important part of what you want to do, and why is that such an important thing for you?
Thank
And
you,
please
Deepika.
share what childhood dialogues is with everyone. I'm assuming people will know, but you should explain it anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. So, at the Better India, the kind of stories we've been running are always around change makers, innovations, and very solutions oriented, right? And that's the kind of mindset we felt very strongly internally, that it should be developed from a very early age, right? I mean, we as a country are so used to seeing problems all around us and, bombarded with negative stories, and it just creates this whole the sense of despair and hopelessness within all of us, and it can be very detrimental to a child itself growing up in such an environment, right? So what we, over the years, we had some amazing insights where we used to get emails from school teachers and principals saying that we take printouts of your stories and read them out in classes, in our class, and expose our kids to the kind of solutions and innovations and change makers that you're talking about. So we felt that there was a huge need for exposing children to this kind of content and the building a solutions oriented mindset from a very beginning. When we started speaking to you, and Extra Foundation, Deepika, there was such interesting connect right from the beginning. I think we had such a meeting of minds, I would say, because what Extra Foundation wanted to do was speak about the entire ecosystem, right, and surface the various dialogues that play a role in the development of the child, and it's so important to move away from the typical conversations we have about where should our child go to school, what is the best curriculum, what is the all of those things, to really just focusing on the fundamentals, right? Looking at the child's ecosystem, what are the stakeholders and the different influences on the child's life, that really play a critical role in those early years of development. So for us, the beauty has been working on childhood dialogues with Extra Foundation, that it has been such an evolving and enriching learning experience for all of us involved, because I think the most amazing part was that we worked so collaboratively on it. You told us, you have a 200 million reach, and content the best. We leave content to you. So do the research, do the thing. But we have so many insights, and so we learned so much from you in terms of all the insights that you've gained over the years through the foundation, uh, and all of us, from starting off by creating the stakeholder maps and understanding the entire ecosystem and all the different influences for a child, whether it's the infant stage or the toddler stage to the early years, to really, it was evolving in the sense we had so many different areas we started tapping into, right? Starting from the influencers and caregivers, which was also eye opening. I mean, when we think of caregivers, we usually limit ourselves to parents, grandparents, at the most teachers, Anganwadi workers. things like that. But at at a certain stage, we really started expanding our horizons and looking at book publishers, for instance, right? So Nidhi plays such an important role in an early these initiative plays such an important role. Aparna's initiative around lullabies, such an important role, especially uh, when sung by the grandparents, parents. It stays with the child forever. Sonali's initiative around play. So I mean, play became such an important conversation in between us, Deepika, as we move forward, and we had the national curriculum framework to speak about, which brought out so many interesting facets. And the emphasis on play as well as traditional knowledge and educational systems. It's been an incredibly amazing learning experience for us, and then to be associated with the Bachpan Manao campaign as well. I mean, the film, when we saw, we had that that brilliant aha moment, and all of us, right? I remember you showed us, and our team multiple times at multiple occasions, and every single time I remember the team came back and said, this is so powerful. This, it's that moment when you see the kids, and that the fire, I don't know if I should give a spoiler here, but that look in their eyes, right? I mean, I think that it's so powerful, the entire campaign, right? And we've always looked at different ways in which to associate. For instance, for Children's Day, we're running an imagination project, or imagination box project, where we want kids to explore things around them, and for instance, boxes in which their e-commerce orders come, they and just do something imaginative with it, and send it across to us, right? So the whole thing is, it's just so amazing when you start uh, utilizing what's around you, all the resources around you, and cut out the noise, start thinking beyond the structured play, the expensive toys, the schools and the curriculums, but really focus on what's important in the child's life. Those first 8 years of their existence is so, is their clay in your hands, and the way you shape them is just amazing. So for us, childhood dialogues, Deepika, was, I would say, such an enriching experience for all of us to learn, and then be able to put it out there with all the different stakeholders, in the ecosystem. It's been amazing.
Um, Thanks, Anu, for sort of bringing that to bear. And Childhood Dialogues is essentially a microsite on the Better India website, where all the stories associated with childhood and children are really captured and showcased. And what has been interesting is over the years, we've connected Anu's team to many different people in the ecosystem and say, explored this idea and explored this idea. And the offer, and Anu, in terms of, I'm just articulating this for you, but you can go ahead and say it yourself, is that they're very often open to stories to carry. It could be of change makers or ideas. So to connect with that, particularly because Childhood Dialogues is, in my mind, a sort of a public good that they have put out. I know it can capture, and you will find a lot of different ideas there as well. So, public goods take on various forms. You create something in tech and put it out in the open source license. You create a story, put it out in Creative Commons license. All of that, those are digital public goods in some ways. But even just open access of repositories of stories, ideas, actions, amplification, which is the role that Better India plays, would be of incredible value for this ecosystem. Um, we're over time, and I'm going to kind of be mindful of what we had meant for this conversation to be about. It was really about hearing different initiatives at play and thinking of connections. And I'm going to kind of, because of that, close this conversation here for us to pick it up as we go. But I just want to give a shout out to the initiatives at play here, really. Khel Khel Mein from Sesame Workshop, and Khel Khel Mein and more, actually, if I may say so. The First Songs Project, I think there's a lot there for the wider ecosystem to engage with. and do look it up on the Bachpan Manao website and all our handles as well, and also Billion Readers social media handles. Nidhi's Bookosmia's Voice of Children. There are many, many projects at play, and particularly the one that they're going to run over the next few weeks of bringing the voices of ideas of children into Lit Fests and making that a template for bringing voices of children into physical spaces. I think it's going to be powerful to follow and see where that goes. I'm really excited about that. Neha, I think there are many, many projects at play. Bachpan Manao, of course, has gone live across the country in your ecosystem, but certainly a lot more on content for inclusion and for learning and reading is something that I think that ask is a powerful ask to look at how we actually amplify that ask for the ecosystem to respond to, I think is an important aspect. Anu, your Better India is a platform that offers space for amplification of a lot of these initiatives and so much more. And thank you for making the time to be here today and sharing your thoughts and ideas, and more importantly, just making the connections with each other so organically.
Yeah, I know everybody's sure going to hear from me. I mean, I've already written a whole list of things and ideas that came to me as I was listening to everyone. So I'm most excited. Thank you, Deepika, for making not just hosting us but connecting us.
Happy to be happy to just do that. To be really honest, I mean, I'd say just one of the key things we really, really want to do is to be visible to each other in some way, so the connections can be made and the network would take from the other in its own organic way. And happy to do that. And on that note, I will give you your time back and say
Thank
happy
you.
birthday. And yeah,
Thank you so much.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
You're
everyone.
the most amazing host. Thank you.
thank you.
Thank
Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.